If you believe that offering options is salesy and you don't look into more of the research that proves that it's not, you're going to naturally feel aversion in offering choice, because most electricians don't like salespeople. They don't like the concept of sales. They see it as something they're doing to someone rather than something they're doing for someone. So the first logic is, if you don't believe that offering options is actually helping your customer and that it's not just being pushy, naturally there are some people who operate on ethics that's like, you know what? I don't want to do it. I don't want to cross that line. The second really comes down to is what they've learned from experience, meaning they were taught good, better, best and present from the cheapest up. We're doing it completely the opposite. We're doing 6 and going from the top down. So someone may be like, I'm not willing to change, because there's this fear of, if I do something different, I'll lose the customers I have. And that's actually not the case. Because if you think about it, if your close ratio goes up and your average ticket goes up, you can lose customers and come out more profitable, meaning you can serve less people, but with a higher level of service, so much so that they willingly take higher options and thank you for it.
Hello, and welcome to the $1 Million Electrician Podcast, where we help home service pros like you supercharge your business and spark up those sales.
I'm Joseph Lucani, and together with my co-host, Clay Newmeyer, we're here to share the secrets that have helped electricians sell over $1 million from a single service van.
Now, it's time for sales. It's time for scale. It's time to become $1 million electrician. Hello. What's up, you guys? You're back for another episode of $1 Million Electrician, powered by Duramax. Joe, how the heck are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I gotta admit, with the weather that's been happening recently, like the inner generator nut in me has just been thriving. Power outages, freezing temps. I love it.
Speaking of power outages and Duramax, if you guys recall, we had Jesse Hurt on the show before. I think that was part of season 2 when we did that, and invited Duramax and created this amazing deal. And Jesse just called, actually. He's been trying to get a hold of us. I was on vacay for a bit. I finally got in contact with him yesterday, and it was a total praise call. So I just want to pass some of that praise on and say, we're going to have Jesse on to tell you some of these stories, some of the exceptional stuff that's been happening, where electricians have gone out of their way, even driven across states to pick up Duramax units, and then to help homeowners prepare for these storms and keep the power and the lights on. They're just like exceptional stories. So I'm super excited to have Jesse back, man. And I know that one's going to tickle you pink, Joe.
Oh, man. Anything about those plug-in gens, man, I'm with it. I love them. Love them.
Speaking of things you love, not sure how many of you guys were able to get to the webinar, but I know how many attended. It was like 39. So Joe just actually beat my attendance record, 39 people. I think I was at like 32. And this is something that is becoming a bit of a trend. So I'm just gonna pick at you a little bit here, Joe.
Go for it.
In competition between Joe and I, partners of Service Loop and the $1 Million Electrician, Joe's been kicking my ass lately. And so I just want to call attention to it publicly, public shaming myself. Coach of the Year vote we had, a Christmas party where a bunch of our electricians and all of our staff were there. Coach of the Year unanimously was Joseph. Even though I feel like, it brings so much strategy fire. There's guys that are like, hey, we wouldn't miss your Friday class for nothing. Still, Joe got the bread there. You've recently, Joe, had a viral post. What was that one about?
Oh my God, it was my favorite. It was, when you think about it, the average electrician shows up and you do a whole home diagnostic and you find out that like the problem is in the meter. We found it. It's there. It's isolated, but it's an underground service and it's got a lock on it. And it's all right. Do you whip out the old dikes and give it a cut and say it was cut when I got here? Or do you go by utility regulation and say, I'm going to leave and wait till I come back in 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah. So Joe's at about like 500,000 views on this post. My best ever was like 30,000. So just putting me to shame. And then early today, we just had a check-in call with one of our biggest clients we've worked with, which over a couple years, big win to report here, actually. They were at 10.5 million with a few shops, basically negative profitability. In the first year, we were able to get them up to 12 million, about a 12% profit. And they just reported finishing their year that they were 14 million, I think. So another 2 million increase, which great pat on the back to them. And everyone, of course, as you guys know, we're just the GPS. But When we talked about the continuation, they definitely said, well, we'd love to work with Joe some more. I was feeling a little left out. I think you're like 3 or 4 for 4 here and crushing me, man.
You know, the way I see it, though, is that what's one of the benefits of why I think you and I are such great partners, because whenever the vote comes, I vote for you. I love the information you bring to the table. I get to work with my best friend every single day. We get to build something that's really genuinely valuable for electricians. And you know what? Like, a car needs both. It needs a steering wheel and it needs a gas pedal. One's got to push it forward. The other's got to get us in the right place. So a car is not going to go the same. Neither will we. I love you, man.
I love you too. Appreciate that vote of confidence. And I vote the other way as well. So here's the thing. I think we owe it to everyone to do a little recap and let you know that you could still get the replay of Joe's 90-minute webinar. And you could get the replay of my 90-minute webinar. Had a few less people, but nonetheless, just as powerful, just as motivating, just as influential for your business and making it right in 2026. I want to just restate here that the reason we built this podcast was to help you. And the reason for these webinars is to help you. So the more you show up for it, the more we're going to continue to show up for it. And there's so many ways that you guys already show up for us. But you can continue by showing up for this show, by leaving us feedback where you heard it first, whether that's by reviews, subscribing if you're on YouTube. All of that helps us. And so what we're going to do to repay that debt of you coming through and helping us back is to actually detail some of the key points of Joe's webinar and of my webinar simultaneously in a short show. Now, of course, we can't give you 180 minutes of value in just 10, 15 minutes here today, but I think we could highlight some main points, Joe. What do you say we get into that today?
Yeah, like the thought of putting it all on is like trying to fit a king-size mattress into a tiny little Volkswagen. It's like, it's not going to fit. You could try, but it's not going to fit.
Wait, are you talking Vanagon?
I don't know what you're
Volkswagen van?
No, I was thinking the tiny little Beetles, you know what I mean? Like little hatchback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But, honestly, I'd love to talk about some options. Being able to figure out all the different secrets and the levers that we can talk about. So where do you want to get started?
All right. Well, I'll start with mine. I'll just recap it a little bit. So how we set this webinar series up is, we're doing several of these things, and they're going to keep going all year long. And anyone in the SLE Pro app has access to these and the replays. And that's literally all you have to do is sign up for that. You can do so at serviceloopelectrical.com/pro-app. If you're not in the app already, that's where you can get a ton of free resources, including this info and the full replays. But for now, mine was focused on profitability and setting the strategy tone for 2026. And there's some really key areas for that. But number one was we need to do more for the clients we're already serving. And the best way we could actually do that was to refer you to Joe's webinar. And that's where we set up number 2, by selling more stuff, by having a greater relationship with every single person that you get to have a relationship with. And options, as Joe mentioned, were a key takeaway from that. So he'll cover some of that next. And some of the other pieces were as simple as, like our next webinar, one of the key secrets to being profitable is actually hitting the capacity of your current team. And a capacity that even begins to overwhelm your team, so it signs you for growth. And of course, what we're talking about there is generating enough leads to serve that leads to more of what Joe's about to let you into, which is these big options. So I'll leave mine at that. You guys have heard enough about the Profit Workshop. You can get it on the app. Joe, what were some of the big takeaways for the 39 people or 40 people that stayed the 90 minutes with you, would you say, on the workshop you just did?
So to tie in exactly what you said, I think they actually go hand in hand. You need to charge the right number in order for what I'm teaching to work. And that's why it's so important. And if anything wants to figure out their price, we have free price tools that can teach you what you need to do. But here's the logic. Once you've gotten your price figured out, you're profitable in what it's supposed to be, and you're set up for all the efficiencies, then we talk about how to set up more offers to your client. Because it's almost like the concept of, you got to be able to go into a call expecting 6 different objections to land across your lap. And the best way of handling objections is actually to create options that solve them for you. So what we did is we discussed our method of 6 options, which is 2 premium choices for the high class, 2 mid-range for the everyday person, and the 2 economy for the most bottom barrel solutions you can do. And the reason being of why that was so impactful was because you could tailor to every type of archetype without having to guess or use a disc profile of what this kind of person is, because they could be bluffing. So first is we talked about how to do the options, why they're impactful, and the reach they can provide. The second thing we got into was then going further and saying, all right, now that you understand why we're offering options, how can we show what level is likely to be taken? And we pulled a lot of math of, well, what's the sweet spot? What's likely to be put? Why 6? Why not 3? Additionally, why do we go in the way we do? We price from the top down and present from the top down. Why would we do that? Well, the big takeaway comes down to you need your anchors. You need your platinum at the top to be like, this is the finest someone could take. But you also need the most bare minimum possible so they can look at this and say, you know what? I don't need to shop around. I've seen everything that you currently need. And you're the only one who actually offered me these choices anyway. So that's the first thing that comes off mind. Anything I should be digging into before I continue on?
No, I don't think so, man. Keep going.
Sweet deal. Then it came down to not only does objections be solved by having the options in that you can handle them as they come up, but we actually taught how can you handle additional objections, such as the email it over, the breakdown your price, and all those common ones, like what's your hourly rate. All those come down by being able to position your options as a service you're providing in a turnkey package, rather than saying, if you were to break everything down a la carte and you call me for each individual task individually, each task adds up to a total package larger than what I'm actually quoting you. So by me focusing on the efficiencies, why I've custom designed them the way I do, and also the specific handles you can use when those objections come up, shows that not only will you become more profitable in your average ticket going up, not only will your close ratio go up by presenting it, but the ease your technicians will have by now them not being worried about the objections that naturally do come up. They're not worried that it's going to phase them, meaning you have a more confident, more successful, and more efficient sales team or service team. And we break down exactly how in the physical webinar of it.
Love it. What do you see as like the biggest thing that gets in the way of an electrician adopting any options framework, and why they'll continue to just keep going out like chucking a truck and throwing one or maybe a price and a half around? You know what I mean by that, right? Like, oh, here's one with an upgraded light. Here's one with an upgraded fixture, that kind of option and a half framework.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. There's emotional, there's intellectual, and then there's what we consider the realistic, right? Or the mental of realism. So here's the first thing. If you believe that offering options is salesy and you don't look into more of the research that proves that it's not, you're going to naturally feel aversion in offering choices, because most electricians don't like salespeople. They don't like the concept of sales. They see it as something they're doing to someone rather than something they're doing for someone. So the first logic is, if you don't believe that offering options is actually helping your customer and that it's not just being pushy, naturally there are some people who operate on ethics that's like, you know what? I don't want to do it. I don't want to cross that line. The second really comes down to is what they've learned from experience, meaning they were trained in car sales in the 70s, or they were taught good, better, best and present from the cheapest up. We're doing completely the opposite. We're doing 6 and going from the top down. So someone may be like, I'm not willing to change. The fear of change, even positive change, can be scarier than just continuing what I'm doing, even if I know it's the wrong way, because there's this fear of, if I do something different, I'll lose the customers I have. And that's actually not the case, because if you think about it, if your close ratio goes up and your average ticket goes up, you can lose customers and come out more profitable, meaning you can serve less people, but with a higher level of service, so much so that they willingly take higher options and thank you for it, which allows you to create a better base, meaning that now customers actually want to invest with you willingly. And then the third really comes down to the conditioning of what they saw. And I mean like your own personal experience. If you grew up not having a lot of means, like I remember growing up and certain things didn't work in the house. And, my parents did the best they could and no shame to them. But if you grow up being taught that a deal is what you look for, or you need to find a guy, you can't go for the company, then you trying to be what you were taught was the wrong thing can be really disheartening for certain people. So it not only takes an emotional shift in saying, you know what, I'm doing this to help people. 2, it's getting past the fear of, I'm not worried about losing people because I know if I do this the right way, more people will thank me than they will hate me. And the last is combating your personal experiences and saying, yeah, that was my lens growing up, but should I force that lens on everyone else I meet?
I love that last one. Yeah, the lens that we bring with us. And I've heard you say this, and I think you even mentioned it in the webinar. I was in attendance too, so I guess you could dock one, but you did keep me the full 90 minutes. You mentioned how the objection we bring is the objection we get. and kind of set up another session for that in another webinar. But what did you mean by that? The objection we bring is the objection we get.
So let's say that you have your own personal bias to something in that, okay, great. We'll talk about the email objection. The reason being is because, yes, most people are terrified of email over rejection. They're like, I don't know how to get past it. I end up doing all this work and it's a waste. Okay. Why is that objection stumping so many people? It's because they personally believe that's how they would operate in the exact same situation. So when the customer brings that to the table and they're like, oh, well, I would do the exact same thing. That makes sense. Let me push it. When instead options actually changes how you respond to the question by allowing yourself to say, well, I'm happy to help you with that. Which of these options do you want me to send over? So you're still in a position of helping someone while also narrowing the focus to get clarity on what would really help them. And that same thing applies to so many other options. If you personally believe the objection that's being presented to you and you identify with it, you'll fold because you don't have the mental or emotional fortitude to change something you already identify with.
You just created an aha moment for me. You know how we've practiced and addressed when you first get to an opportunity call, an estimate, and someone says, well, just so you know, Joe, I'm looking for multiple quotes.
I love that one.
Tying that back to options, it's almost like, hey, I wouldn't expect any less. I encourage multiple quotes. In fact, I'm even going to give you multiple quotes today, multiple options to choose from. Have you ever bridged that gap before?
Yes, but I've changed one word, and that is the word today. The reason being is because I feel that if scarcity goes up, they stop thinking about how much it's going to cost and start thinking of, can he do it? And I want them to be in that mindset until the numbers revealed. But yes, you're right. That's a great introduction to it because someone's going to say, actually, there's a step before it. Do you mind if I touch on that if that's okay?
No, that's it.
Someone approaches you at the door and they say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be getting multiple estimates. The first response was, well, thank you so much for the communication. I really appreciate you being so transparent. But just so we're on the same page, I haven't even stepped in. Why do you feel it's important to communicate that to me now? Now I get the emotional reason out. And then if they actually have a legitimate reason, be like, well, that's wonderful. And I actually encourage you to do so because what we're going to do and what makes us so unique is that we provide a complete menu from the best you could possibly have, which is complete turnkey where you do nothing, all the way to the bottom where I'll hand you a shovel and you can work with us. And you choose whatever you think is best for you and your budget. If I were to do that, what would happen then? And then we get the conversation rolling again.
Yeah, I love it. I'm always interested, as you know, I'm a bit of a psychology nerd. I'm always interested in why we get so awkward or feel awkward in that space and won't call attention to that comment that just came forward.
It's like a blinders mentality because if you don't know how to address something, sometimes it's easier to say nothing because you don't know what to say. You know what I mean? Like it's the information hits you, you hear it, but you have no idea how to process it. So you take a statement that you have in your head and say, this is what I think they meant in the best possible scenario. I'm going to just skip over it and assume they meant it in my best interest. When really it's sometimes they don't know why they're asking either. Sometimes they've been told, I need to tell the contractor at the door I'm getting multiple estimates, and they've got no one else lined up. Why? Because I don't want them giving me too high of a price. I want to keep them competitive. So when you ask, well, why do you feel it's important? Let me know that. They'll sometimes pause and be like, I don't want to pay a lot for this. Okay, have I given you the impression you're going to have to pay a lot for this? I mean, I haven't even stepped in. Should we time this out here? Or do you guys like me to come in? And then we can transition and take control of the call. It's just like Arnold Palmer said. If you didn't bring it with you, you're not going to find it here. That's why the rehearsal, the role play, the repetition, and developing a muscle memory is great. Because when you're hit with something that seems like it's coming out of left field, you've drilled for it so many times, you just switch gears and you're like, okay, let's handle this now.
Let me ask you a direct question. This feels exactly relative, pinpoint on this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Based on, we started talking about pricing and profitability and making 2026 your best year. We led into selling more and building deeper relationships by handling these objections with more options, more choice. So the element of control is to them while we actually have more control over the outcome. That fair to say?
Very much so.
Do you think in 2026, there's a version of electric service where someone can get their price right, charge what they need to charge based on their own expenses and investments in their business and not provide options and succeed at this game?
I mean, when you say, is it possible? I take that literally. And it means improbable is what I'd like to say. And here's why. Today's day and industry, the average customer is different than they were 10 years ago. They're more informed. They have better articulation of what they want. They have AI assisting them in the information gathering process. There's more scrutiny and reviews. And you need to be something different than everyone else. Because realistically, if you're put side by side with everyone, and all you have to say is, well, we're licensed and insured and do good work, that's what it says on everyone else's van. And the AI is going to be able to pick that up just as easily as your customer would. So you need to be able to serve them differently and at a higher level in order to stand out. And I found the best way to serve is to listen to them, hear what they're trying to say, and find the emotional reasons why they're saying it. And then if you understand that, it becomes easy to offer options. Because you can say, well, I know you were mentioning this was important to you, but obviously not in the near future. But at the very least, if you're going to take this on, I want to at least give you the option to explore it. We have options even lower than what you actually asked for, but because you specifically mentioned that concern, I just wanted you to at least hear about it. Is it wrong of me to at least bring you up to speed? And now me offering options is serving them in a different way than the competitor is. They feel heard and they can identify with whatever choice fits best to them and their needs.
You just reminded me of another episode. It's been a while since. Might have been episode 87 or 137. It's somewhere in there, but it was basically titled, I know you'll remember this one, How the Why Tells Us What to Offer.
Exactly.
Is that what you mean by understanding their emotional reasoning behind it?
Bingo. Can I give you an example, or like a practical example?
Yeah.
Let's take the call that the average electrician gets heartburn over, right? I get on my work order and I see the customer wants a Ring doorbell installed. And everyone's like, well, that's BS. There's competitors doing a $50 install. Not worth my time. Pass. I actually like those calls. And here's why. Why does someone want a Ring doorbell? It's either given to them by their grandson, or it's given to by a sibling, or by a child, or someone in the family. Usually is the one who gave it to them. But let's pull on that rope. Why do they feel it's important for that person to have it? Oftentimes, it's because the home actually isn't secure. There were either recent break-ins that happened, or crime has gone up due to a lower economy, or the person's getting elderly, or a spouse has passed. So if that's the case, wouldn't it be just as applicable to say, well, we have the garage door that's a break entry point, we have the back door, which is a break entry point, and we have all the big windows on the bottom floor here. Wouldn't it be equally important to make sure those entrances are practically secured, especially since stats say the number one source of break-ins is from the back door? So I go to that call and say, well, now that we know why you want it, we're going to offer a range of packages of security enhancements, with our top option being, well, let's put in multiple automated cameras so you have a 360-degree control of your perimeter, and they're all syncing to the same app, and they give you better lighting and quality as well. So you can solve the emotional need of being secure. We can put in fingerprint locks. We can put in keypad locks. We can go to the nines and get everything protected. They feel safer. Their family feels safer. We walk out with a higher ticket and a customer who continually works with us in the future. Everyone wins on the worst call that an electrician says he's going to have to go to.
You just reminded me of another thing which made me smile. Just remember how special you are, my friend. I think at one point in an options class with a client somewhere, you were making options for and relevant to humidity, maybe with a card collector.
Yep.
Something very niche.
I remember that.
And just reminded me again with that example of how deep you love to go and learn the needs of these particular personalities so you can serve them at a higher level.
I'm going to do a nerd shout out here. I am a huge Magic the Gathering player. I play competitively and I love it. So learning cards was just natural to who I am. And you find that certain valued cards respond differently to higher or lower humidities. And as a result, if you want to keep the value of one, wouldn't it make sense to have in the game room a humidistat controller with a ventilation system? So if you know the thing that your client is specialized or enjoying or really identifies with, and you could present an option that gets them more enjoyment out of it, more security out of it, and a higher investment long-term, you offering it becomes the hero. So yeah, my nerdy hobbies can actually maybe provide some value every now and then.
Well, I don't even play Magic, and still when I hear it, it puts a smile to my face and it makes me inclined to ask more. So you, sir, are truly a professional. Let me ask you a personal opinion question. Of course, it's going to be biased, but do your best to be unbiased with this, Joe. You put on this webinar, replays available. You know the value stack of these webinars coming out. You also mentioned how you've done 7 years back to back of the same fundamentals training with a key trainer provider in this marketplace for all trades. That said, not going to ask for a direct comparison, but if you had the option to attend these webinars that we put on as a service electrician, if you were still in the van, would you have attended this thing?
So just so I understand it, you're saying if I was an electrician that did not previously receive sales training, would I still come and get value from this webinar?
Heck, you know what? Would you come to this 7 times straight even? Let me ask it that way, just like you did the fundamental trainings you used to attend.
It's hard to be unbiased because I've seen both on my side, but this is the best I think I can do. When you really want to excel at something, you learn it best when you start teaching it. And the thing that really was a common theme throughout that webinar was it spoke to the real reasons why people don't want to do options based on their own limiting beliefs. And getting reaffirmed of why and really calling it out. Like, you're not offering them not because the customer doesn't want it, because they never said that. You're not offering it because you're worried about coming across as a salesperson losing the job. And really just sitting in that and being like, it is my own BS. It is me. I got to do things differently if I'm going to change this company. I think just that section alone would be worth the re-listen to and to have continually played in the van, because too often we get exposed to different objections from our clients enough times that you start to identify with them. You know, you have a price increase and you keep hearing you're expensive, you're expensive, you're expensive, you're expensive. And if you don't know how to change or reposition that, eventually you're going to start repeating in your head, we're expensive, we're expensive, we're expensive. And it's going to affect how you present those higher tier options. But if you can really focus and say, you know what? I know who I'm trying to work with. And I know that when I work with that person, I'll serve them at such a level where I'm locking them in for life. So maybe it's less yeses, but when they do say yes, it's a massive boom. I'm willing to take that and repeat it because I think that would be a massive unlock for a lot of electricians and just service providers as a whole. But once again, my own podcast, my own thing. So it's kind of hard to be unbiased, you know?
Let me do it this way. Let's ask one more. How many years did it take you in electrical service to get to your first $1 million service van year?
I think that was, let's see, so 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 6 years, I believe it was. And the reason being was because I was learning from an HVAC coach, from a plumbing coach, from a car sales, from archaic car sales like Zig Ziglar and all that. And I was trying lots of different things and trying to put things in front of customers while I was learning them. That's what I think took so long, because the concept of sales, like I knew that I needed to do it, but I didn't know how and what from what styles and what from which coaches actually did work, which is why I love the process we teach, because I already did the brunt work for you guys. I already got the nose in my face and the doors closed because I did the wrong technique at the wrong time. So what I honestly consider is a blessing in being able to put good into the world is that I can hand you something that I know worked because I did it and it did work, and I tried what didn't work and can already rule it out. Does that make sense?
It does. So final question for you, Joe, today, since the focus has been on you, would it still take you 6 years today, or how long do you think you could do it in now? If you had this training starting over, doing it all over again?
If I was conservative, I'd say 2 years. And here's why. Because with the training, it covers 3 separate aspects. My biggest problem was not being priced right originally. Even if we were closing jobs, we weren't profitable because we were charging what we thought people would be willing to pay. So the first part of the training, and like in our intro courses, is get your price right? Then the second thing was I didn't have a sales process. I was winging it from multiple coaches and multiple inputs telling me, do this, do this, do this, do this. But if I was given one solid plan, I'm an autistic dude. I'm going to take it literally and just run with it whole heart. So we would have had a sales process. And then the last thing was we really struggled with leads. Didn't know how to, if I knew, I would be on Facebook while it was still a big thing and everyone was on Facebook, right? Or figuring out, pay this person this, don't pay that person that. I would have known 1, how to charge, 2, how to collect, and 3, how to get more customers. If you have all those things, you got put the treadmill on fast and you're just sprinting. I didn't have that. So I'm grateful and I want people to be better than me because we give more than I had. Hopefully that gives context.
Incredible. No, it's great, man. So that's like a 3x faster and conservatively, as you mentioned. It's never been a better time to train. Obviously, yes, we're biased, but here's the thing. You ended on the perfect place because you mentioned the leads. And many of you guys don't know this, but I've heard the story a few times in the background. Maybe it's come out on the podcast before, but I mean, at times Joe would be put on developing new relationships and leads, even at Home Depot, right? They'd go send you down the generator aisle to just start conversations to try to get a new customer and see what people were thinking. And so if you guys are similar, if you're on this journey or you're just beginning with us, it doesn't actually matter the order of operations of these webinars, but it is important that I shout out Forrest, who you've seen on this podcast a couple of times. If not, you can go back and listen to his episodes. He's going to be leading our leads webinar, which is coming up at the time of this release in just a couple of weeks. So kicking off first week of March, you can join Forrest on there and completely remove the veil and get rid of the bad weather, any dark clouds around this, and help you see clearly what needs to be done to make the most of leads in your electrical service business, so that you can come back and watch Joe's replay webinar as well by joining us again, serviceloopelectrical.com/pro-app for the sign up on that one. And this is at the free level, guys. Like, all this value there for you. Please take it. Please run with it. You heard it from Joe himself and you heard it from me. Gosh, what a great time to be an electrician. Joe, any closing comments before we part ways with our friends today?
Just to touch on the last thing you said, because, it is a great time to be electricians. There's this huge fear of our jobs are going to be taken overseas. Our jobs are going to be replaced with AI, not electricians. And the fact is, there's a reason why so many private equity firms are constantly buying electrical shops. It's because they know that same fact. So not only is it a great time to learn how to do it, it's the best time to actually be doing it. So by all means, the treasure's out there. All you got to do is just be willing to learn how to get it.
It's a great place to be a human. Human electrician, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week at some great interviews coming up, including Duramax, our sponsor, Jesse Hurd, again, to tell you some incredible stories. Even how one guy, I think he went and purchased 40 generator units, and had his wife in a golf cart driving neighborhoods collecting cash. Incredible stories coming to you guys on this channel, nowhere else. We'll see you guys again soon. Bye for now.
Hey, friends, be blessed.